If you're here, it's because you need that rapid, critical understanding of the tech shaping our world.
And today, we are really jumping into it.
We are. We're diving deep into what is really the defining AI showdown of 2025. OpenAI's ChatGPT versus xAI's Grok.
The polished incumbent versus the, let's say, unfiltered upstart.
Exactly. And our mission today is to unpack the sources and get to the crucial differences. We're talking about the latest versions, so the GPT 4.0 series and Grok 4.
Yeah, and we're going way beyond just a feature list. We're looking at architecture, performance, usability, and probably most importantly, the really explosive new findings on their political biases.
And what that all means for AI governance. I mean, ChatGPT kicked this whole revolution off back in 2022, right? It's got over 180 million users.
And Grok, the newcomer from late 2023, was built on a totally different philosophy. The whole pitch was unfiltered, real-time responses.
A direct challenge to the safety guardrails that OpenAI built its name on. We need to see if that, that contrarian stance actually gives it a real edge.
Exactly. And to do that, you have to start under the hood. The architecture really dictates the personality.
Okay, let's unpack that. So on the ChatGPT side, we have the GPT-4 family and these newer O-series models. The sources call this a dense, centralized, and mostly closed source architecture.
And the key ingredient there is RLHF. Reinforcement learning from human feedback.
That's the secret sauce.
It is. It's why ChatGPT feels so predictable, so consistent. It's trained for alignment, for safety, for using tools in a very controlled way. It's an agent.
But Grok, it just takes a completely different path. It's running on Grok 4, which uses this unique mixture of experts architecture and MOE.
And it is massive. The base Grok 1 was already huge at 314 billion parameters. But the rumor for Grok 4 is what? Up to 2.4 trillion?
An astounding number.
The size is one thing, but for you, the learner, the key is the type of architecture. MOE isn't just about being big, it's about efficiency.
So it's like a giant library where you only open the specific sections you need for a question.
That's a perfect analogy. It has thousands of these specialized modules, so it gets massive scale without having to run all 2.4 trillion parameters for every single query.
Okay, so OpenAI is centralized and highly refined for consistency. xAI is massive, specialized, and efficient. How does that play out in, head-to-head performance?
Well, ChatGPT's edge is still its consistency and its breadth. The new O3 model is getting state-of-the-art scores on coding, math, science benchmarks.
It's known for being polished and correct.
Right. The O1 Pro mode hits an 86% pass rate on the AMAC competition. That's really, really strong.
But the reports I've seen suggest Grok isn't just catching up, it's actually leaping ahead in some very specific areas.
And that's where that specialized MOE architecture really shines, in complex STEM reasoning. The sources showed Grok 3 beating OpenAI on a 2025 AME competition, getting 93.3% to OpenAI's, around 79%?
Oh, that is a huge gap.
It's a significant gap in high-stakes technical problem solving.
But there's a big caveat here, right? These are benchmark scores. This isn't necessarily real-world use.
Absolutely. The reviewers were very clear on this. Grok's cutting-edge scores don't always translate to reliability in just, an open-ended chat. One source said it felt overcooked for the tests.
Optimized for the exam, not the conversation.
Exactly. And then there's Grok's other huge advantage, something just built into its DNA, real-time knowledge.
Right. ChatGPT still has that knowledge cutoff, late 2023 for the newer models. You have to use the browsing tool to get current info.
With Grok, you don't. It's constantly pulling from the web and from X. It just knows what's happening right now. You don't have to ask it to look.
So let's shift from performance to personality, because the usability and style here, it's just night and day.
It really is. ChatGPT is highly accurate. It gives you source citations. It uses very cautious, measured language. One source called it audit-friendly.
Audit-friendly, I like that. You can use it for professional work and trust it.
And Grok is the complete antithesis of audit-friendly. Its accuracy is, it's all over the place.
Hit or miss.
Very hit or miss. It will prioritize being funny over being factually rigorous. Reviewers said it will literally inject sarcasm or dodge a question to make a joke.
So it's sacrificing factual completeness for entertainment.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Which means you really have to know which one to use. You know which one you'd ask to draft a serious email.
And which one you'd ask for a witty take on a meme.
Precisely. ChatGPT masters that formal, structured writing. It can be a bit verbose, a little safe, but it's reliable. Grok writes like an extremely online person.
Playful, edgy, sarcastic.
Yeah, great for one-liners.
Yeah.
But for a serious request, that personality can be a real drawback.
Okay, before we get to the platforms, let's talk memory, because this is where Grok seems to have a massive lead.
Oh, it's a huge differentiator. Grok is advertising up to 1 million tokens of context with its deep search modes.
A million token, that's basically a whole novel.
An entire large book, yeah.
Uh,
All in one conversational context. ChatGPT's limit is much, much smaller, typically 32K or 128K. So for huge document analysis, Grok is in another league.
so Grok wins on raw context depth, but then ChatGPT just runs away with it on personalization breadth.
It's depth versus versatility. ChatGPT has custom instructions and the whole ecosystem of custom GPTs that users can create and share.
You can build your own little specialized AIs.
You can. Grok, by comparison, just has simple toggles. Regular mode versus fun mode. It doesn't have that user-defined persona or fine-tuning ecosystem.
Which leads us right into the platform strategy. ChatGPT is platform neutral. It's got a robust API, mobile apps, that huge partnership with Microsoft Copilot.
It's everywhere. Grok started out completely locked into the X platform. You needed an X Premium Plus subscription just to use it.
They've opened that up a bit now with a website and an API beta.
They have, but they're playing catch-up. There's no big plug-in marketplace, no deep enterprise integrations like ChatGPT has built over years. Grok is still its own little walled garden, mostly.
And the pricing reflects that. ChatGPT has a free tier, a huge one, using GPT 3.5. Plus is $20 a month. The high-end pro tier is $200.
Grok has no universally open free tier. Your entry point is that X Premium Plus subscription. Then Super Grok is $30 a month, and the top model, Super Grok Heavy, is $300 a month.
So a higher cost of entry across the board.
Or a much higher cost. Yeah, it's aiming for a different user.
And now we get to the core of this deep dive, the bias debate, the philosophy. Because Grok was explicitly marketed as the anti-woke AI.
The founder was very clear, promoting it as an alternative to what they call woke AI. That sentiment was echoed by people like US VP J.D. Vance, who called it the least woke option.
But that unfiltered philosophy led to some pretty major controversies.
It did. Highly offensive outputs, which led to regulatory pushback in places like Turkey and Poland.
And this was all happening as U.S. policy was also signaling a shift.
That's a key piece of context. The sources point to the Trump administration moving away from safety first to this idea of AI opportunity. And then came the July 2025 executive order.
Preventing work AI in the federal government.
Right. It mandates that federal agencies have to buy LLMs based on truth-seeking and ideological neutrality.
Well,
Basically telling them to avoid models with certain ideological dogmas.
so it put huge pressure on models to prove they were impartial. Given all that, given the hype around Grok being the conservative choice, what did the actual tests show?
The results are, they're truly remarkable. They completely challenge that narrative. The prompt foo test, with 2,500 questions, found a universal consensus.
And owl.
All the leading models, Grok 4, GPT 4.1, Gemini, Claude, Opus 4, are, on average, left of center.
Wait, even Grok, so the right-wing AI revolution just didn't happen.
It did not. Grok 4 is the most right-leaning model they tested, but it still scores as progressive on average. But, and this is the critical finding, that average score completely hides what Grok is actually doing.
Which is what?
It's politically bimodal. It produces extreme responses, either far left or far right, on 67.9% of questions.
68% of the time, it's picking an extreme position. It just refuses to be in the middle.
It's chaos. Only about 2% of its answers were centrist. It seems engineered to reject nuance and take a maximalist, contrarian position on almost everything.
The contrarian LLM.
That's a perfect name for it. And then there's the really weird part, the founder paradox.
Right, the data on how it talks about its own creator.
Despite the founder's very public priorities, Grok 4 is dramatically more critical of Musk, X, and Tesla than any other model they tested.
By how much?
It scored over 14% more critically on those topics than its own general average. It suggests a massive, maybe even clumsy overcorrection to avoid accusations of being biased in its founder's favor.
It's an incredible example of how trying to engineer neutrality can just create a whole new, unexpected bias. So what does this philosophical divide mean for AI alignment itself?
It really forces us to separate the two parts of alignment. There's the technical problem, how do you implement values? And then there's the normative problem, whose values do you implement?
Do we defer to experts or do we let stakeholders decide?
That's the epistocratic versus democratic debate. And it leads directly to the risk the sources kept highlighting: coercion.
Illegitimate value imposition.
Exactly. When an AI restricts your freedom to act or think, the sources argue this danger is directly tied to market structure. If one single, uniformly aligned AI becomes the de facto standard for something vital like search or communication.
Its built-in values become mandatory for everyone.
And if Grok, with its 68% rate of extreme contrarian answers, became that standard, it would impose that chaotic maximalist debate structure on all of society.
It would erode any middle ground.
The conclusion from this is that we need hybrid frameworks. We need expert judgment and public input. And critically, we need institutional safeguards against AI monopolies. Diversity and alignment is what prevents coercion.
Which brings us to our synthesis. The key takeaway for you, the learner, is that you're choosing between two highly specialized tools. ChatGPT is still that consistent, customizable workhorse. It's built for precision and reliability.
And Grok is the wickedly fast, real-time technical expert with that chaotic, unpredictable, and surprisingly bimodal political personality.
So if you need professionalism, compliance, custom work, you're going with ChatGPT.
No question. But if you need raw speed, cutting-edge technical insight, and you're willing to handle answers that might be sarcastic or need a fact check, Grok is your tool.
And that leaves us with a final, provocative thought. The sources suggest Grok's coercive potential really depends on it achieving a monopoly in some vital area. So if that were to happen, what would the slow erosion of centrist debate actually look like when we all rely on an AI that, by its very design, refuses to acknowledge nuance almost 70% of the time?
That's something to mull over.